Adrift in the void. The darkness of space pressed against the viewports of the Stellar Seeker, a once proud Salthian science vessel, now limping through the void. Captain Nira, Talvesh, stood on the bridge, her slender gray fingers gripping the command console as she stared at the failing life support readings. Engineering reports auxiliary power will last another 26 hours, Captain, said First Officer Krell, his voice barely audible over the stuttering environmental systems. Nira's 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep stress among her species. And communications. Still nothing. The quantum relay was destroyed in the stellar flare. We're completely isolated. This far from established routes, at the edge of the void reach, where no regular traffic ventured, they might as well have been ghosts already. Nira felt the weight of her 40 crew members' lives pressing down on her shoulders. Scientists, explorers, not soldiers or survival experts. They'd been charting an unstable neutron star when the unexpected flare had crippled their ship. Reduce life support to minimal levels in all uninhabited sections, she ordered. Gather everyone in the central hub. We'll conserve what power remains. As Krell moved to execute her orders, Science Officer Vela approached, her translucent skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns, anxiety signals. Captain, I've been analyzing our drift pattern, Vela said, projecting a holographic map from her wrist device. Even if we redirected all remaining power to the engines, we couldn't reach the nearest outpost. We're adrift. Nira nodded slowly. The Xalthian way was to face truth directly, without emotional display. But inside, her 3 hearts hammered against her ribcage. Continue scanning for any signal, any ship. The void is vast, but not empty. Hours passed. The crew gathered in the central hub as ordered, sharing limited rations and speaking in hushed tones. Temperature had dropped to barely tolerable levels as systems continued failing one by one. Nira retreated to her quarters, not for comfort but for solitude. Her people didn't pray, but they did meditate on the interconnected nature of all things. Perhaps in her final hours, she could find peace in the knowledge that her atomic essence would eventually become part of something new. A sharp buzz from her communication band interrupted her meditation. Captain. Krell's voice cracked with excitement. Something's appeared on long-range scanners. Nira rushed back to the bridge, hope and caution warring within her. In the void reach, not all encounters were beneficial. Pirates, scavengers, and worse prowled these regions. The main viewer showed a distant object, approaching at sublight speed. Its configuration matched nothing in their database. Size estimate places it at military-class dimensions, Vela reported, but the design is unusual. As the object drew closer, details became clearer. The vessel was massive. It tall, dark, and angular, bristling with what appeared to be weapon emplacements. No markings, no identification beacons. It moved with deliberate purpose, directly toward them. Hail them, Nira ordered, straightening her uniform. First contact protocols were ingrained in every Xalthian officer, though she'd never expected to use them in these circumstances. No response, Krell said after repeated attempts. They're receiving but not acknowledging. The mysterious ship continued its approach, then stopped, hovering at a distance that was neither threatening nor friendly. A standoff. They're scanning us, Vela reported, monitoring her instruments. Detailed scans. They're looking at everything. Hull integrity, life support status, crew biosigns. Are they preparing to attack? Krell whispered. Nira's antennae twitched. If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done so from a distance. This is assessment. Minutes stretched into an hour. The crew watched anxiously as the dark ship maintained its position, silent and imposing. Then, without warning, the communication system crackled to life. Xalthian vessel, a voice spoke in perfect standard galactic, though with an accent Nira had never heard before. Prepare for docking procedure. No introduction, no identification, just a command. This is Captain Nira. Talvesh of the Salthian science vessel Stellar Seeker, she responded formally. We welcome assistance, but request identification of your vessel and intentions. Silence followed, long enough that Nira wondered if they'd respond at all. We are the Reckoning, the voice finally replied. Human vessel. A collective gasp swept through the bridge. Humans? Impossible. According to official Conclave history, humans had been extinct for over 70 years, wiped out during the Great Purge after their aggression threatened galactic stability. There must be some mistake, Krell whispered. Humans are not as extinct as you've been told, the voice interrupted, having clearly heard the whispered comment. Decision time, Captain Talvesh. Your life support fails in 20 hours. We can dock and evacuate your crew, or we can leave you to your fate. Your choice. Nira felt the eyes of her crew upon her. Legends of human brutality and cunning had persisted even decades after their supposed extinction. But legends were all they had. No Xalthian had ever actually encountered a human. We accept your assistance, she said firmly. Thank you. Prepare your starboard docking ring. And Captain, your crew should be unarmed. We'll know if they aren't. The communication cut off. Captain, is this wise? Krell asked, voice low. If they truly are humans, then they're still more likely to help us than the Void. Nira finished for him. Besides, what choice do we have? The massive ship maneuvered with surprising grace for its size, extending a docking tunnel that sealed against their airlock. The Stellar Seeker shuddered at the contact. Pressure equalized, Vela reported. Their atmosphere is compatible. Nira gathered a small reception party, herself, Krell, and Vela. Protocol dictated first contact be handled by senior officers, though in truth, she was unwilling to send her crew into potential danger without facing it herself first. The airlock cycled open. Two figures stood in the tunnel. They wore dark, form-fitting suits that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Their faces were obscured by smooth, featureless helmets. Captain Talvesh, one of them said, voice slightly mechanized through the helmet speakers. I'm Commander Reese of the Reckoning. Nira performed the formal Xalthian greeting, hands open, palms forward, head slightly bowed. We are grateful for your timely arrival, Commander. The human made no reciprocal gesture. Instead, he removed his helmet. Nira had studied extinct species during her academic years, but seeing a human face in person was jarring. Flat, with only two eyes set horizontally, skin a warm brown color, and a crop of dark fur on top. The face was simultaneously more alien and more familiar than she'd expected. Captain, our sensors indicate your ship has suffered catastrophic system failures, Reese said, his expression unreadable. We've come to evacuate your crew and salvage what we can of your vessel. You were searching for us? Krell asked suspiciously. A slight smile curved the human's lips. We monitor this sector. Your distress beacon may be dead, but your power fluctuations created a signature we recognized as a ship in trouble. The second human remained helmeted and silent, standing slightly behind Reese like a shadow. Commander, Nira said carefully, I must ask directly, how is it that humans still exist? All Conclave records indicate your species was lost during the conflicts 70 years ago. Commander Reese's expression hardened. Your Conclave tried their best to exterminate us, Captain. They nearly succeeded, but humans are notoriously difficult to kill completely. He gestured toward the airlock. Now, I suggest we begin evacuation. Your ship won't last much longer, and we have much to discuss. As they prepared to board the human vessel, Vela approached Nira and whispered, Captain, their technology. It's far beyond anything in our databases. These aren't survivors eking out an existence. This ship could challenge a Conclave battle group. Nira nodded slightly. The implications were staggering. If humans had not only survived but thrived in secret, developing advanced technology while hiding from the Conclave's watchful eye, what else might the official histories have wrong? The inner doors of the Reckoning opened, revealing corridors that seemed to stretch impossibly far for a ship of its external dimensions. The lighting was subdued but adequate, and strange symbols marked the walls. Not decorative, but clearly functional. "Your crew will be housed in the visitor section," Commander Reese explained, leading them deeper into the ship. "Medical needs will be attended to. Once everyone is settled, Captain Talvesh, I'd like you to join me in speaking with our Admiral." "Admiral?" Nira asked, surprise overcoming her diplomatic reserve. Reese nodded. "The Reckoning is just one ship, Captain. One of many." As they walked, Nira noticed other humans watching them. Some with curiosity, others with unmistakable hostility. How many humans had survived? Where had they been hiding all these decades? And most importantly, why reveal themselves now to a random Salthian science vessel? They entered a large chamber where more humans worked at stations with technology unlike anything Nira had seen before. At the center stood a tall figure, female based on Nira's limited knowledge of human dimorphism, with pale skin and hair the color of stellar plasma. "Captain Talvesh," Reese announced, "meet Admiral Helena Frost of the Human Remnant Fleet." The Admiral turned, fixing Nira with eyes the color of deep space. "Welcome aboard, Captain," she said, her voice carrying authority that transcended species. "You're the first Salthian to knowingly speak with a human in 7 decades. How does it feel to discover that everything your conclave taught you about us was a lie?" Nira felt a chill run through her body that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature. Somewhere deep inside, she knew that stepping onto this vessel had changed not just her fate, but potentially the fate of the entire galaxy. The Admiral gestured to a massive view screen showing hundreds of ships scattered across an unmapped region of space. "Your rescue wasn't random, Captain. It was an opportunity for both our peoples." Nira stared at the fleet, a human fleet that couldn't possibly exist, and realized she was standing at the precipice of history. "What do you want from us?" she asked quietly. Admiral Frost's expression wasn't quite a smile. "Truth, Captain. After 70 years of hiding, we think it's time the galaxy faced the truth." Whispers of rebellion. Admiral Frost's command center hummed with activity as holographic star maps rotated above the central table. Nira sat rigidly in a chair designed for human proportions, uncomfortable both physically and mentally as she processed what she'd just been told. "You're saying the Conclave attempted genocide against your entire species," she said slowly, and then erased the truth from the historical record. Admiral Frost nodded, her expression grim. "The Great Purge wasn't a defensive action against human aggression. It was a calculated extermination campaign. The Conclave feared our potential more than our actions." Commander Reese placed a data crystal on the table. "This contains unaltered footage from the Mars Colony massacre. 3 million civilians, children, elders, non-combatants, wiped out in a single day. The first strike in what became the Purge." Nira's antennae quivered with distress. Her people valued truth above all else. The idea that the Conclave, the very institution her people had joined for protection and advancement, could orchestrate such deception was almost too much to bear. Why would they do this? Salthians joined the Conclave because they promised stability, protection from the chaos of interstellar politics. "Control," said a new voice. A human female entered the room, older than the others, with skin deeply lined around the eyes and mouth. "Humans wouldn't conform to their hierarchy. We asked too many questions, developed technology too quickly, formed alliances with species the Conclave had designated as subservient." Admiral Frost nodded respectfully to the newcomer. "Captain Talvesh, this is Dr. Eleanor Chen, one of the few survivors from Earth's diplomatic corps." Dr. Chen's eyes were sharp despite her apparent age. "The Conclave presents itself as a meritocracy, but it's a rigid case system. The founding species, the Axoni, the Dravari, and the Mosseri, maintain control through technological superiority and information manipulation. Your people, the Xalthians, joined relatively recently, Only about a century ago, correct? Nira nodded. Then you're still in the probationary tier. Limited access to advanced technology, restricted to specific territories, heavy taxation disguised as development contributions. Dr. Chen's smile was sad. We've studied the pattern for decades. The Conclave never intends for newer members to rise. Your resources to be harvested, buffer zones against external threats, and markets for their goods. The words struck Nira like physical blows. Everything Dr. Chen described matched realities she'd observed but had rationalized away. The temporary restrictions on Salthian expansion that had lasted decades. The mandatory upgrades to their ships that seemed to make them more dependent on Conclave maintenance facilities. If what you're saying is true, Nira said carefully, why reveal yourselves now? Why to us? Admiral Frost exchanged glances with Commander Reese before answering. Because after 70 years of hiding, building, and waiting, we're finally ready to challenge the Conclave. And we need allies who know the truth. The Admiral gestured, and the holographic display changed to show what appeared to be a massive space station hidden within an asteroid field. This is Haven, she explained. Our primary outpost in this sector. We're taking your crew there for safety. And then, Nira asked, then you have a choice. Return to Conclave space with a modified memory of being rescued by anonymous traders, or join others who have learned the truth. Others? Krell asked from his position near the wall, speaking for the first time since entering the command center. In answer, Admiral Frost changed the display again. The station called Haven appeared in greater detail, showing districts and habitation zones labeled with names Nira recognized with shock. Tenderi, Volus, Shrike, Melfian, all species from the Conclave's lower tiers. You're not the first to discover the truth, Captain, Dr. Chen said softly. For decades, we've been making contact with ships in distress, individuals fleeing persecution, colonies abandoned by the Conclave when they were no longer profitable. The journey to Haven took 16 hours, through what Commander Reese called fold space, a method of faster-than-light travel unknown to Conclave science. The reckoning moved through this dimension with a smoothness that made Nira question everything she knew about physics. Her crew had been distributed throughout the visitor quarters, treated with cautious respect by the humans. Medical care was provided for those injured during the stellar flare incident. Nira had ordered them to cooperate while she assessed the situation. When they emerged into normal space, Haven filled the viewports, a sprawling complex built into and around a cluster of asteroids, illuminated by the distant light of a red dwarf star. It's beautiful, Vela whispered beside her. The science officer had been unusually quiet since the rescue, processing the implications of human survival and advanced technology in her methodical way. Beautiful and impossible, Nira replied. None of our surveys ever detected this. Phase-shifted dimensional anchoring, explained a human technician who overheard them. Unless you know exactly what frequency to scan on, Haven looks like a standard asteroid cluster. As they docked, Nira felt a growing unease. Everything she'd seen contradicted her understanding of reality. Either the humans were perpetrating an elaborate deception, for what purpose she couldn't imagine, or her people had been living under a veil of lies for generations. The docking bay was enormous, accommodating dozens of ships from various species. Some Nira recognized, others were completely foreign to her. Moving among them were not just humans, but members of at least 6 other species she could identify. Welcome to Haven, said Commander Reese, leading them from the ship. Home to over 40,000 souls from across the galaxy, united by one thing: rejection of Conclave control. They were taken to a central administrative complex where representatives from different species gathered to meet the newcomers. The atmosphere wasn't exactly festive, but there was a sense of purpose that transcended the diversity of forms and cultures. A towering Tenderi with crystalline growths protruding from blue-gray skin approached Nira. Another ship of awakened ones. The being said in a voice like grinding stones, I am Elder Kos. My colony was abandoned on a failing mining world when the ore ran out. The humans found us starving and brought us here. Similar stories came from others. A Volus researcher who questioned the official history and faced rehabilitation. A group of Melfian traders who discovered corruption in the Conclave's economic policies and were branded as criminals. Shrike laborers left to die when a terraforming project was deemed unprofitable. This is a refugee camp, Nera observed as they toured Haven's levels. It began that way, Admiral Frost acknowledged, walking beside her. Now it's the heart of the resistance. They entered a chamber that seemed to be Haven's nerve center. Displays showed star systems across the galaxy, with particular focus on Conclave military movements. We've been gathering intelligence, building alliances, and developing technology beyond Conclave understanding, Frost explained. For years, we've helped those we could while staying hidden. But resources grow scarce, and the Conclave's control tightens. The time for hiding is ending. Nera's scientific mind processed the implications. You're planning war. We're planning liberation, corrected Dr. Chen, who had joined them. Starting with the truth. The Conclave's power relies on controlling information and technology. Once enough people know they've been deceived, an alarm interrupted her, blaring through Haven's communication systems. Admiral Frost moved quickly to a console, her expression darkening. Conclave patrol fleet just entered the outer system, she reported. 7 ships, including a dreadnought. The command center erupted into coordinated activity. Orders were given, defensive systems activated. Commander Reese approached with a grim expression. We have a problem, Admiral. The patrol's movement pattern suggests they're tracking something. They're heading directly for Haven. All eyes turned to the Xalthians. Krell stepped back defensively, but Nera stood her ground. Our ship was officially registered for this expedition, she said. Standard procedure includes subcutaneous trackers for all crew members in case of capture by pirates or separatists. The accusation in the room was palpable. Had they led the Conclave directly to the human stronghold? It wasn't intentional, Nera added quickly. We didn't know humans existed until yesterday, let alone that we'd be rescued by them. Admiral Frost's gaze was calculating, but not condemning. The question isn't about blame, Captain. It's about where you stand now. If that fleet discovers Haven, everything we've built is at risk. Not just humans, but all those who've sought refuge here. The implication was clear. Nera looked around at the command center, at the diverse beings who had found truth and purpose here, at the humans who had rescued her crew when they could have remained hidden. What do you need from us? She asked. Confirmation that you weren't coerced, Admiral Frost replied. The Conclave will assume we captured you, forced information from you. They need to know you're here willingly. Nera thought of her homeworld, of the gradual erosion of Xalthian autonomy over decades, of research projects mysteriously reassigned to Conclave supervision, of promising young scientists disappearing into special programs, never to return to their families. And if I provide this confirmation, she asked, then you officially become enemies of the Conclave, Commander Reese said bluntly, along with your entire crew. There's no going back. Nera turned to Krell and Vela. Get the crew together. They deserve to know everything and make their own choice. Within an hour, the 40 Xalthians gathered in a meeting hall. Nera explained the situation plainly. The truth about humans, the nature of Haven, the approaching Conclave fleet, and the choice before them. I cannot and will not decide this for you, she concluded. Each of you must determine where you stand. The silence that followed was heavy with the weight of decision. Then Vela stepped forward. I joined this expedition to discover truth, the science officer said quietly. I cannot turn away from it now, no matter how uncomfortable. One by one, others spoke, some with conviction, others with trepidation. Not all agreed. 5 crew members chose to return to the Conclave, unwilling to believe the evidence or unwilling to risk their families. We respect your decision, Nera told them, and I hope the Conclave respects your ignorance of what you've seen here." The dissenters were escorted to a secure area while Haven prepared for the coming confrontation. Nira, now committed to this new path, joined Admiral Frost in the command center. "Your remaining crew will be safe in the inner habitats," Frost assured her. "We've faced Conclave patrols before, though never a dreadnought." "What are our chances?" Nira asked. The Admiral's expression was unreadable. "Better than they think." On the main display, the Conclave fleet moved closer, their formation indicating they were preparing for combat rather than exploration. Leading them was the dreadnought Immutable Truth, a name that struck Nira as ironically appropriate given what she now knew. "They're hailing on standard Conclave frequencies," reported a human operator. Admiral Frost nodded. "Let's see what they have to say." The screen filled with the image of a Draveri commander, his segmented exoskeleton polished to a mirror shine, adorned with the gold markings of high rank. "Unidentified settlement," the Draveri said coldly. "We have tracked Conclave property to this location. Surrender the Salthian vessel Stellar Seeker and all its crew immediately." Admiral Frost stepped forward. "This is Admiral Helena Frost of Haven. The Salthians you seek came here of their own free will after being rescued from a ship failure that your patrols ignored." The Draveri's compound eyes widened slightly, the only indication of surprise at facing a human. He recovered quickly. "Humans," he said with contempt. "So the rumors of survivors were true. This changes nothing. You will surrender the Salthians and yourselves for proper processing." "I think not," Admiral Frost replied calmly. "In fact, I have someone who would like to speak with you." She gestured to Nira, who stepped into view. The Draveri's mandibles clicked in agitation. "Captain Talvesh, you are ordered to report to Conclave authority immediately. These humans are known terrorists and deceivers." Nira stood straight, her 6 eyes focused. "Commander, I have seen evidence that contradicts our official history. I stand with Haven of my own free will and encourage the Conclave to engage in peaceful dialogue rather than threats." The Draveri's exoskeleton flushed with color, a sign of rage among his kind. "You are now classified as a traitor to the Conclave. The penalty is death." He turned his attention back to Admiral Frost. "You have 1 hour to surrender or be destroyed." The transmission cut off. "Well," said Commander Reese, "that went about as expected. Begin evacuation of non-essential personnel to the backup facilities," Admiral Frost ordered. "And activate the Sentinel network." Nira watched as Haven transformed from a refugee settlement to a military installation. Hidden weapon systems emerged from the asteroids. Ships began moving into defensive positions. "You said you've been preparing," she observed. "For 70 years, Admiral Frost confirmed. "This moment was inevitable, though I'd hoped for more time." The human looked at Nira with an intensity that transcended species. "Captain Talvesh, your decision may have accelerated our timetable, but don't mistake that for regret. The truth was always going to come out. The question now is whether we can survive its revelation." As the Conclave fleet moved into attack formation, Nira felt both terror and strange exhilaration. For the first time in her life, she was facing unfiltered reality, dangerous, complex, and free from the Conclave's carefully constructed narrative. "What can I do to help?" she asked. Admiral Frost smiled slightly. "Your biosignature is still being tracked. I think it's time we use that to our advantage." Outside, the massive Conclave dreadnought Immutable Truth led its escort vessels closer to Haven, weapons charged and ready to enforce the will of those who considered themselves the rightful rulers of the galaxy. But this time, their targets weren't helpless colonists or isolated ships. This time, humanity and its allies were ready to fight back. Standing together, the command center of Haven hummed with tense energy as the countdown to the Conclave ultimatum ticked away. Nira stood beside Admiral Frost, watching the tactical display as it tracked the approaching enemy fleet. "Your biosignature is our advantage," Nira asked, recalling the Admiral's earlier statement. Frost nodded. The Conclave is tracking you and your crew, specific Zolthian life signs they can distinguish from the background noise of Haven. That means they're focused on a particular signal pattern. Understanding dawned on Nira. You can duplicate it. Better, said Commander Reese, joining them. We can amplify and distribute it. Dr. Chen has developed a biosignature replication system. Dr. Chen approached with a small device. This will scan your specific markers and allow us to project them from multiple locations simultaneously. To their sensors, it will appear as though your crew is scattered across several different asteroids in the Haven cluster, forcing them to divide their attention. Nira concluded. Clever. It's more than a distraction, Admiral Frost explained. The Conclave believes they're dealing with a small human outpost that captured a Xalthian vessel. They don't know about the resistance, our true numbers, or our technological capabilities. Your biosignatures will help reinforce that misconception until it's too late. As Haven's defensive preparations continued, Nira learned more about the human resistance that had grown in secret for decades. Hidden shipyards building vessels with technology beyond Conclave understanding. A network of informants throughout Conclave space. Alliances with species who had never joined the Conclave, and some who had broken away. How did you manage all this without detection? Nira asked Dr. Chen as the elderly scientist calibrated the biosignature device. Necessity breeds innovation, Chen replied. When facing extinction, humans become extraordinarily resourceful. We developed phase shift technology that keeps our settlements and ships invisible to standard Conclave scanners. We learned to communicate through quantum entanglement that can't be intercepted. And we had help, added a new voice. A Shrike engineer named Tak approached, his feathered crest rising in greeting. Many species recognized Conclave oppression, but lacked the means to resist. Humans provided that means. Tak gestured to the biosignature replicator. This device uses principles my ancestors developed centuries ago, before the Conclave banned the research as destabilizing to the established order. Humans helped us recover our lost knowledge. Throughout Haven, similar stories emerge. The Volus had contributed advancements in shield technology. The Tendari had provided critical metallurgical innovations. Each species had brought something valuable to the resistance, knowledge suppressed by the Conclave, resources hidden from their inventories, determination born from oppression. 10 minutes until their deadline, Commander Reese announced. Admiral Frost gathered her officers. Initiate Operation Phantom Echo. Deploy all defensive batteries but keep the Sentinel network dormant until my command. Nira was assigned to a secondary command post with Vela and several human officers. From here, they would coordinate the biosignature deception, making the Conclave fleet chase shadows, while Haven's true defenses remained hidden. Incoming transmission from the Immutable Truth, reported a communications officer. The Draveri commander appeared on screen, his exoskeleton now adorned with ceremonial combat markings. Your time has expired, he stated flatly. Surrender now or face eradication. Admiral Frost's response was calm but firm. We decline your generous offer, Commander. We suggest you withdraw before this situation escalates beyond your control. The Draveri's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Your arrogance is noted, human. It will make your destruction all the more satisfying. He cut the transmission. All stations, battle positions, Admiral Frost ordered. Activate biosignature projection network. Across Haven, the deception system came online. Suddenly, Xalthian life signs appeared scattered throughout the asteroid cluster, dozens of false positives designed to confuse and divide the Conclave's attention. The response was immediate. The Conclave fleet split its formation, with the smaller patrol ships moving to investigate different signal sources while the dreadnought maintained position at a distance, preparing to coordinate the assault. They're taking the bait, Vela observed. Nira nodded. The Conclave has always preferred overwhelming force against isolated targets. They don't adapt well to unconventional tactics. The first shots of the battle came from the Conclave patrol ships, precision strikes against asteroids where they detected Salthian signatures. Energy beams carved into rock, destroying empty habitats and decoy equipment. Hold position. Admiral Frost commanded over the network. Let them waste ammunition on ghosts. The Conclave ships continued their inefficient assault, targeting phantom signals while Haven's true defenses remained untriggered. The dreadnought Immutable Truth held back, its massive weapons charging, but not yet firing. "They're being cautious," Commander Reese noted. "The dreadnought commander suspects something." "Then let's give them something real to worry about," Admiral Frost replied. "Phantom Squadron, you have clearance to engage." From behind the largest asteroids, small fighter craft emerged, human-designed vessels with sleek, predatory profiles. They moved with impossible speed, their propulsion systems unlike anything in Conclave records. "Phase shift drives," explained one of the human officers when Nira asked. "They exist partially in normal space and partially in fold space simultaneously, effectively impossible to target with conventional weapons." The fighters attacked with surgical precision, focusing on the patrol ship's sensor arrays and communication systems rather than weapons. 2 Conclave vessels went dark almost immediately, their crews still alive but their ships blind and mute. The dreadnought responded, firing massive energy salvos that the fighters easily evaded. Its beams cut through empty space as the human vessels seemed to flicker in and out of existence, untouchable and deadly. "Impressive," Nira said, watching the battle unfold. But the dreadnought's main cannons could still destroy Haven's primary habitats if they locate them. "They won't get the chance," Admiral Frost replied. "Sentinel network, activate." Throughout the asteroid field, what had appeared to be ordinary rocks suddenly came alive. Dozens of automated defense platforms emerged from camouflage, their designs unlike anything in Conclave military databases. They formed a web around the battle zone, cutting off potential escape routes. "What are those?" Vela asked, her scientific curiosity overwhelming even in the midst of combat. "Quantum entanglement disruption fields," explained a human engineer. "They prevent faster-than-light communications and jumps. The Conclave fleet is now isolated from reinforcements." The dreadnought's commander realized the trap too late. The massive vessel began to turn, attempting to bring its main weapons to bear on the nearest visible habitat structure while deploying countermeasures against the human fighters. "All ships, execute Helios Protocol," Admiral Frost ordered. Nira watched in astonishment as ships began emerging from fold space directly around the dreadnought. Human vessels of various designs, none matching Conclave records, all bristling with weapons that defied conventional understanding of physics. "You've been hiding an entire fleet," she whispered. "Not hiding," Commander Reese corrected. "Waiting. This is the human remnant fleet, 47 ships that escaped the purge, supplemented by vessels we've built in secret over 7 decades. The human fleet surrounded the dreadnought, weapons locked but not firing. A standoff. Open a channel to the Immutable Truth," Admiral Frost commanded. The Draveri commander appeared on screen again, his composure noticeably shaken. "What trickery is this? How did you conceal such forces?" "The same way we concealed our survival," Admiral Frost replied. "With determination and innovation your Conclave sought to eradicate. You have 2 options now, Commander: retreat and report that the human threat has returned, or stand and fight against odds you cannot overcome." The Draveri's compound eyes shifted rapidly, calculating. "You speak of peace while threatening destruction. Typical human duplicity." "Not destruction," Frost corrected. "Justice. The truth about what happened to Earth, to Mars, to every human colony systematically exterminated by Conclave forces. The truth your leaders have hidden for 7 decades." Nira stepped forward, unable to remain silent. "Commander, I've seen evidence of Conclave deception. As a scientist, I cannot ignore facts, no matter how uncomfortable. Whatever happens here today, the truth will spread." The Draveri commander chittered in anger. "Traitor. Your species will disavow you. Your family line will be erased from Salthian records. You have doomed yourself for nothing. Not for nothing, Nira responded calmly. For truth, for justice, for a future where the Conclave serves its member species rather than controlling them. The commander's mandibles clicked furiously. Without another word, he cut the transmission. They're powering weapons, reported a tactical officer. All batteries, all decks. Admiral Frost's expression hardened. They've made their choice. All ships, defensive positions. Protect Haven at all costs. The battle erupted in full force. The dreadnought unleashed its arsenal, massive energy beams, striking at the human fleet, while its fighter squadrons engaged the smaller vessels. The patrol ships that remained operational joined the fight, targeting the revealed Sentinel platforms. Haven's defense systems responded with technologies forgotten or forbidden by the Conclave, shields that absorbed energy rather than deflecting it. Weapons that bypassed conventional defenses by shifting partially into fold space. Automated repair systems that sealed hull breaches almost as quickly as they formed. In the command center, Nira watched with both horror and fascination. The violence was terrible, but the technological display was beyond anything she had imagined possible. They're targeting the central habitat, warned a tactical officer. The dreadnought had identified Haven's main residential area, home to thousands of refugees from dozens of species. Its main cannon, capable of splitting asteroids, was aligning for a devastating strike. Interceptors aren't in position. Commander Reese reported grimly. We can't stop that shot. Admiral Frost's voice was steel. Activate the Lazarus Protocol. Concern flickered across Reese's face. Admiral, that system hasn't been fully tested. We have no choice. Frost interrupted. Do it. A new system came online, its power draw so massive that lights dimmed throughout Haven. At the center of the command display, a representation of folded spacetime appeared, a complex mathematical model shifting and warping. The dreadnought fired its main cannon, a beam of concentrated energy, bright as a newborn star, lanced toward Haven's central habitat. Then reality itself seemed to bend. The beam struck what appeared to be empty space and vanished. A heartbeat later, it reappeared behind the dreadnought, striking one of its own escort vessels with devastating force. The patrol ship disintegrated instantly. Space-time inversion field, Dr. Chen explained to the stunned Zolthians. It redirects energy attacks back toward their source through fold space. The dreadnought's commander, realizing his most powerful weapon had been turned against him, changed tactics. He ordered his remaining escort vessels to launch boarding parties. If they couldn't destroy Haven from a distance, they would take it by force. Boarding shuttles streaked toward Haven's outer habitats, carrying Conclave Marines in heavy assault armor. They're targeting multiple docking bays, reported a security officer. Our ground forces are moving to intercept, but they're stretched thin. Nira turned to Admiral Frost. My crew can help. We're not soldiers, but we know Conclave protocols and equipment. We can assist your defense teams. Frost nodded. Commander Reese, coordinate with Captain Talvesh. Get her people where they're needed most. As the battle raged in space, a new front opened within Haven itself. Conclave Marines breached several outer habitats, engaging in fierce close-quarters combat with Haven's defenders. Humans fighting alongside Volus, Tenderi, Shrike, and other species who had found refuge here. Nira led a team of her crew to a critical junction where Conclave forces threatened to reach the medical facilities. Armed with unfamiliar human weapons and accompanied by a squad of resistance fighters, they established a defensive position. Stay behind cover, advised a human sergeant. These barriers can stop most Conclave weapons. The first wave of Conclave Marines approached. Axoni soldiers in mechanized combat suits, armed with disruptor rifles. They moved with the precision of troops who had trained together for years, but they were clearly unprepared for the hodgepodge of species and tactics they now faced. Nira's scientific knowledge proved unexpectedly valuable in combat. She recognized vulnerabilities in Conclave equipment that others might miss. Cooling vents that overheated, sensor arrays with limited peripheral vision, power cells with electromagnetic sensitivities, focus fire on their left shoulder joints. She called out during one fierce exchange. That's where the neural interface connects to the armor. The multi-species defenders adapted quickly, using Nira's insights to overcome their numerical disadvantage. Throughout Haven, similar scenes played out, former enemies becoming allies against Conclave oppression. In space, the battle had reached a critical point. The human fleet had inflicted significant damage on the Dreadnought, but the massive vessel remained operational, its redundant systems and heavy armor making it difficult to disable completely. "Admiral," reported a sensor officer, "we're detecting quantum fluctuations. The Dreadnought is preparing to transmit a superluminal distress signal. If that signal reached Conclave space, reinforcements would arrive within hours. Far more ships than the Resistance could hope to defeat. Can we block it?" Admiral Frost asked. "Not completely," replied the officer. "The Dreadnought's transmitter is too powerful." Frost's expression was grim. "Then we need to end this now." She opened a channel to all Resistance ships. "This is Admiral Frost. Execute Operation Sunburst. I repeat, execute Operation Sunburst." Throughout the fleet, captains acknowledged the order with solemn determination. The human vessels began a coordinated maneuver, forming a precise geometric pattern around the Dreadnought, while maintaining continuous fire. "What's happening?" Nira asked, having returned to the command center after securing her sector against Conclave Marines. "Our last resort," Admiral Frost replied. "A synchronized fold space implosion. It will create a temporary microsingularity that should disable the Dreadnought without destroying it completely." "Should?" Nira questioned. Commander Reese's expression was grim. "The calculation margins are narrow." The human fleet's formation tightened, each ship positioning itself with perfect precision. Energy began to flow between them, visible as arcs of blue-white lightning connecting vessel to vessel. "Fold space synchronization at 80%, reported a technician. 90, 95. The Dreadnought's commanders realized something was happening. The massive vessel's engines flared as it attempted to break free from the human formation. But it was too late. "Synchronization complete," announced the technician, initiating fold space collapse. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then space itself appeared to fold inward around the Dreadnought. Stars behind it distorted, stretched, and vanished as a sphere of absolute darkness enveloped the Conclave flagship. The sphere pulsed once, twice, then collapsed back to a pinpoint before disappearing entirely. Where the mighty Dreadnought had been, a crippled hull now drifted, its weapons silent, its engines dark. "Target neutralized," reported a tactical officer. "Minimal life support remains active. Estimated survivors, 60% of crew." Admiral Frost nodded with grim satisfaction. "Begin rescue operations. I want those survivors treated according to interstellar conventions. They'll be our witnesses." The remaining Conclave patrol ships, seeing their flagship disabled by technology they couldn't comprehend, began powering down weapon systems, a universal signal of surrender. As Haven's defense forces secured the last pockets of Conclave resistance within the station, Nira found herself standing beside Admiral Frost, watching the aftermath of battle on the main view screen. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. "Now comes the hard part," Frost replied. "We have a brief window before the Conclave realizes they've lost contact with their fleet. We need to use that time to spread the truth as widely as possible. The truth about humans, about the Purge, about everything. The Conclave's systematic oppression of member species, the suppression of technological advancement, the rewriting of history to maintain control." Frost turned to face Nira directly. "We didn't fight today just to avenge Earth, Captain. We fought for every species that has suffered under Conclave rule." Nira's antennae quivered with emotion. My people won't easily accept that everything they've believed for generations is a lie. No one does, Frost agreed. But the evidence is undeniable. And you, a respected Salthian scientist, will be crucial in presenting that evidence. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just a single battle, but the beginning of a galactic revolution that would reshape power structures established for millennia. There will be more fighting, Nira said, not a question but a statement. Admiral Frost nodded. The Conclave won't surrender control willingly, but with each world that learns the truth, their power diminishes, and they no longer have the advantage of secrecy. In the days that followed, as Haven began its recovery, Nira worked alongside Dr. Chen and others to compile irrefutable evidence of Conclave deception. Historical records saved from Earth before its destruction. Testimony from species who had witnessed Conclave atrocities. Scientific analysis of suppressed technologies that could have benefited billions. The human fleet dispersed, carrying resistance representatives, including some of Nira's crew, to worlds throughout the galaxy. They traveled in secret, making contact with those who might be receptive to the truth, building a network of allies for the coming struggle. 1 month after the Battle of Haven, Nira stood before a gathering of representatives from 27 species. Some attended in person, others through secure quantum entanglement projections. All were gathered to hear evidence that would shatter the foundations of Conclave authority. "I come before you not as a rebel or revolutionary," she began, her voice steady despite the enormity of the moment. "I come as a scientist committed to truth. What I have discovered, what we have all discovered, will be difficult to accept. But facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored." She activated a holographic display showing Earth as it had been before the Purge, a vibrant blue world teeming with life and culture. Humanity did not threaten galactic stability, as we were taught. They threatened something the Conclave valued more: absolute control. Their crime was innovation, independence, questioning authority. And for that, they were nearly exterminated. The evidence unfolded, document after document, testimony after testimony. Irrefutable proof of a conspiracy spanning centuries. But humanity survived, Nira continued. And in hiding, they built something remarkable. A true alliance of equals. A model for what galactic civilization could become without Conclave oppression. She looked around at the representatives, seeing shock, disbelief, anger, but also hope. "I cannot tell you what path to choose. Return to your worlds. Verify what I have shown you. Make your own decisions. But know this, the Conclave's power relies on our ignorance and division. Together, united in truth, we have the strength to build something better." As the gathering dispersed, Admiral Frost approached Nira. Eloquent, the human said with approval, "You may have just changed the course of galactic history." Nira's antennae dipped in a gesture of humility. "I simply presented facts. What happens next depends on innumerable choices by countless beings." "True," Frost agreed, "but they now have the one thing the Conclave never wanted them to have, a choice based on truth." They stood together, human and Salthian, looking out at the stars that had once seemed so orderly under Conclave rule and now represented both uncertainty and possibility. "The Conclave will respond with force," Nira observed. "Yes," Frost nodded. "The path ahead will not be easy. There will be conflict, perhaps even war on a scale the galaxy hasn't seen in millennia. But not today," Nira said. "Not today," Frost agreed. "Today, truth won a victory. And in the end, that's what will matter most." Outside Haven's viewports, ships from a dozen worlds gathered. The first fleet of what would become known as the Alliance of Free Worlds. Former enemies standing together, united not by fear or force, but by shared purpose and mutual respect. As Nira watched, a Tendari cruiser moved alongside a human vessel. Rather than the tense standoff such proximity would have caused months ago, crew members from both ships could be seen at viewports, exchanging salutes of respect. "My homeworld has a saying," Nira told Admiral Frost. Truth illuminates the path, but courage is required to walk it. Frost smiled. Earth had a similar saying. The truth will set you free, but first it will make you miserable. They shared a moment of understanding that transcended their different biologies, cultures, and histories. I wonder what the historians will call this moment, Nira mused. That depends on who writes the history, Frost replied. But I suspect they might call it the beginning of something better. As if in answer, a new ship arrived. A Xalthian vessel. Not a warship but a science ship similar to the Stellar Seeker. It broadcast a simple message. We heard the truth. We stand with you. The first of many. Nira felt a strange peace despite the uncertainty ahead. For the first time since being rescued from the void, she was exactly where she needed to be, standing alongside those who valued truth above comfort, justice above order, and freedom above security. The ancient human fleet, once hidden in shadow, now flew openly alongside vessels from across the galaxy. Together, they faced the coming storm, not as conquerors or victims, but as equals united in a cause greater than any single species. The stars themselves seemed brighter somehow, as if illuminating a new path forward, one that would be forged together, in freedom and truth.